Hello all and welcome to yet another video. I was chatting with a friend one day on Instagram and I had sent her all of my photos I had taken at Universal Epic Universe, and she gave me an idea to make a video of my experience at Epic Universe. So this video will be a retrospective similar to my first HHN retrospective for when I first visited in 2023. However, this time it will be centered around my experience of visiting Universal Epic Universe. I don't want it to be a normal review of the park, but also I wanted it to be a retrospective of my experience as well as the hype leading up to it. But I will have a review / ranking towards the end. First, I want to go back to late 2014, early 2015, when I was looking into Universal Studios and I thought it would be something I would want to visit someday. Fast forward to sometime in April or May of 2015, and Universal and Nintendo announced a partnership to have Nintendo attractions at Universal theme parks. This only gauged my interest in going to Universal one day. The years would go by and construction began with construction on Super Nintendo World at Universal Japan. Then it was scheduled to open up in 2020, but that ended up getting delayed for obvious reasons, so it opened in 2021 instead. Then it opened in 2023 at Universal Hollywood. But in 2019, Universal announced a new theme park called Epic Universe. It was announced that there would be lands themed at How to Train Your Dragon, Harry Potter / Fantastic Beasts, Universal Monsters, and of course, Super Nintendo World with both Mario and Donkey Kong. It was slated to open in 2023, but it was delayed yet again for obvious reasons. Come December 2020, when said obvious events were happening, I went to Universal Studios for the first time and I had so much fun. Ever since then, I wanted to go on as many Universal trips as I could in future years to come. I went once in 2021, I went in 2022, I went to my first HHN in 2023, I went more times in 2024 as well as going to my second HHN event that year, and come 2025 I went to Epic Universe. The hype leading up to it was insane. I remember the video that introduced all the lands themed to the IPs as well as Celestial Park. Celestial Park served as the main hub that leads to the worlds like Super Nintendo World, Dark Universe, Ministry of Magic, and Berk. It also features 2 rides and an upcoming nighttime show. There's the Constellation Carousel, which is a carousel ride that looks pretty cool at night. There's also this roller coaster ride called Stardust Racers, which is a dueling coaster, and in the center of it all, the Universal Grand Helios Hotel, which has its own entrance to the park. For the lands, there is How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, where you soar with dragons and have a Viking adventure based on one of the best DreamWorks franchises. There's also Dark Universe, which is a world where Universal's classic monsters are reimagined in a very chilling experience. Then there's the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, where you get to see moments from 1920s France, from the Fantastic Beasts movies, as well as the 90s British Ministry of Magic from the Harry Potter movies. And of course, my favorite being Super Nintendo World, where it has stuff from Mario and Donkey Kong. How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, when you first enter it, you are introduced to a sweeping view of the island itself, almost right out of the movies. This land takes place between the events of the second and third movies, so think of it as Berk 2.5. You can meet characters like Hiccup, Toothless, Astrid, and Stormfly, just to name a few. Mead Hall is one of the restaurants you can eat at in the land. It also has 3 rides, those being Hiccup's Wing Gliders, Fire Drill, and Dragon Racers Rally. Hiccup's Wing Gliders is a family coaster in the land. Dragon Racers Rally is a Skyfly flat ride themed to dragon racing. Fire Drill is a boat ride that is actually a game that is supposed to simulate putting out dragon fires and see who can put out the most fires. There is also Viking Training Camp, which is a play area with a variety of activities. Then there is The Untrainable Dragon, which is a show that had originally debuted at Universal Beijing, which has Broadway level production to this show. It features so many great sets, costuming, effects, and advanced technology that help bring the dragons to life. Super Nintendo World, which is the one I was most excited for, you enter through the iconic green warp pipe, where you get to experience the Mushroom Kingdom as well as Donkey Kong Country. You have Mount Beanpole and all sorts of different characters. You can also get the power-up band, and it allows you to play games in the land as well as keep score and find hidden elements throughout the land. The rides they had were Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, Yoshi's Adventure, and Minecart Madness. For Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, they use AR technology to bring the challenge to life. You can see the beautiful scenery and also have fun with the gameplay in the image. Yoshi's Adventure is a family ride where you explore Mount Beanpole, where you are on the search for glowing eggs. It's a fun and colorful ride all ages will enjoy, and you also get a pretty good view of Super Nintendo World. Minecart Madness gives guests the opportunity to join Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and it's made to look like the minecart levels in the Donkey Kong Country games. Dark Universe, sharing the name of that failed Universal Monster shared universe concept, is a new reimagining of our favorite Universal monsters. In this world, all those classic monster stories have happened, and Darkmoor is the result of that. It toes the line of being family friendly but also being PG-13. You have the opportunity to turn yourself into a monster you can eat at this vampire themed restaurant called Das Steakhouse. It's centered around the story of Dracula and vampires themselves. There's the Burning Blade Tavern where the monster hunters hang out, and you will hear some tales about the monsters they have killed. The two rides here are Curse of the Werewolf, which is a spinning roller coaster based on the Wolfman film from 1941. And there is also Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, which is a Kuka arm dark ride featuring the Universal monsters. In Curse of the Werewolf, it is inherited by the mystics, and we find Maleva, and she gives us the bad news that we bear the curse of the werewolf. We get put into the wagon and get sent out into the woods. Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, takes place in Frankenstein Manor, and it follows Victoria Frankenstein. She is the great-great-granddaughter of Henry Frankenstein from the original Frankenstein movie. You don't know if she is good or not, but she does want to bring good back to the name Frankenstein again. She's conducting these experiments where she has captured all these monsters and wants to control them, but Dracula has other plans. It has the most technological animatronics any theme park has built. Also, the music is composed by Danny Elfman, who, if you are a Tim Burton fan, you know his scores. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, it borrows elements from both the Fantastic Beasts and the Harry Potter movies. You end up in 1920s Paris from the Fantastic Beasts movies. There are shops and restaurants to explore with nods to Fantastic Beasts throughout. Of course, you can get butterbeer there like you can in the other Harry Potter sections at Universal, like Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade. You can also go to Cosme Acajor to buy your wand, and you can use it throughout the Harry Potter section. There's also a show there called Le Cirque Arcanu, where you can encounter all the Fantastic Beasts you know and love. This is the first indoor scale show for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. There's aerialists, special effects, puppetry, and so much more. Then you can go to the British Ministry of Magic through the Flume Network and end up on the Harry Potter ride, Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. The story takes place after the events of the Harry Potter movies, and Dolores Umbridge is standing trial for her crimes against the Wizarding World, and when you board your elevator, or lift if you are British, you find out she escaped. You join Harry, Ron, and Hermione on a quest to capture Dolores Umbridge and stop her from bringing back the time of Lord Voldemort. I'll go ahead and show some photos from when I entered. Now, I want to go off script for a moment, and because I want to mention the grand opening. It was pretty cool. Like you even had, whenever you were at the main gate where you enter, you had Steven Spielberg, who wasn't there in person, but his voice like echoed over, but through the speakers, his voice was welcoming guests. And then of course you had like Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Donkey Kong at the Super Nintendo portal. And I can't remember if there was any particular celebrities that were there for Super Nintendo World. Like, I can't remember if Shigeru Miyamoto was present or not. Let me know if he was in the comments. I don't know if he was there. Then of course you had the Dark Universe section, where it had like Frankenstein, the Bride, Invisible Man, Igor, and even Victoria Frankenstein making her, as of right now, appearance as a walk-around character in the park. And I don't know if any celebrities were there for Dark Universe, but I do know that horror YouTubers James A. Janice and Chelsea Rebecca from Dead Meat, most famously known for their series The Kill Count, was there. And then of course you had the Harry Potter section, which had Matthew Lewis, who played Neville Longbottom, and Warwick Davis, who played Professor Flitwick, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of the actors that played Fred or George for the Harry Potter section. Then of course you had stars from the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake make an appearance for the How to Train Your Dragon section, with walk around characters of Hiccup, Astrid, and Stormfly there too. Okay, back on script. Now that I went over the lands in the order Universal released introduction videos for, now I want to talk about the stuff leading up to going to Epic Universe. My dad bought the tickets in early December, and we went December 6th as an early birthday present. But before that, I started rewatching all the movies of the IPs that were featured in those lands. I didn't rewatch the Universal Monster movies because I already did that for the Universal Monster movie ranking that came out on my channel that same year. But I ended up watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and the Harry Potter series, including the Fantastic Beasts trilogy. I also ended up rewatching Van Helsing, the 1999 Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser, and I watched the live-action How to Train Your Dragon earlier in advance. Then came December 5th, the same day I released the Max Amazing World of Plush movie. I ended up going to Disney's Hollywood Studios, where after my night there, I ended up staying the night on Disney property. Then came the next morning, where me and my dad left the hotel and headed out for Epic Universe. Stopped by McDonald's to get some breakfast before the park opened, because we got there a little earlier than usual. We decided to go in a little early, and they held us outside in Celestial Park until 10 a.m., where the park opened to those guests who didn't have early admission. We did take the time to look in the shops, like the Nintendo All-Star store, which was super cool and had Easter eggs to Pikmin and might be a hint to The Legend of Zelda coming to Epic Universe sometime in the future. It was during Christmas time, which was cool and all, but I do want to come back someday to see everything without the Christmas decorations. The Kronos, which is a massive clock at one of the gates of Constellation Park. On the clock are spheres related to different worlds connected to Constellation Park's portal. Celestial Park is a domain between worlds with advanced yet artisanal technology and lush greenery. The people who inhabit the domain are known as Celestians, whose ranks include inventors, adventurers, and poets. Thanks to portals and other advanced technologies, Celestial Park is a nexus in between various different worlds across space, time, and possibly even universes. It also has restaurants, stores, and other features like Atlantic Restaurant, Astronomica, Bar Zenith, Blue Dragon, Pan Asian Restaurant, Celeste Tiki, Frosty Moon, Hemisphere Stage, Lens Flare. Also a fun fact about Celeste Tiki. Celeste Tiki's Waturi punch drink is named after Waturi Beach, the main wave pool of Volcano Bay and Volcano Bay's fictional Waturi people. The drink's description mentions a tropical oasis, alluding to this connection. You can also see a statue depicting Luna, the Roman goddess of the moon, and counterpoint to the Greek Selene. There's also Meteor Astropub, which is a pub owned by stargazer and aspiring cosmic engineer Omar Alia. Moonship Chocolates and Celestial Sweets is the shop and base of operations for astral explorer Maya of the Skies and her best friend Captain Kakoa. At the shop, they all sell pastries and sweets, which they've found recipes for in their travels. There's also the Neptune Pole. As mentioned earlier, there is also the Nintendo Superstar Store, which is a castle-like outpost established by travelers from the portal-connected worlds of Nintendo, such as the Mushroom Kingdom and possibly Hyrule. Outside of this outpost is a fountain sculpture of Mario. Some fun facts amongst the 8-bit tapestries of Mario franchise characters are those of Link, Zelda, and Ganon from the original Legend of Zelda game. You can also see the stained glass windows at the entrance are windows depicting Link, Ganondorf, and Zelda as they appeared in the Twilight Princess. In the mosaic tiles is a design with the Master Sword and Triforce. Similarly to Super Nintendo World and the other parks, small Pikmin from the Nintendo series of the same name can be found hiding in the Nintendo Superstar Store. One is underneath the stained glass window for Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. Also, can't forget about other worlds, Mercantile, Pizza Moon, and Plastered Owl. Then we see the portals that Celestial Park has connected to different worlds across time, space, and very likely the multiverse. Amongst the portals are one to the village of Darkmoor, the Mushroom Kingdom and Donkey Kong Country, the worlds of Wizards, and the Isle of Berk. Sensorium Emporium, this is the base of legendary adventurer Vincent Various, which he has transformed into a shop. Can't forget about the Universal Grand Helios Hotel at the center of it all. For a little backstory of the park itself, Celestial Park is the titular setting for this hub world. A legendary explorer in the park's history is Vincent Various, who converted his base into the Sensorium Emporium shops. An unidentified explorer created the Stardust Racers as a form of interstellar transport. The guide Solaris oversaw the grand openings of 4 of the park's portals. This opening brought forth Mario, Princess Peach, Donkey Kong, and Luigi from the worlds of Nintendo. Some wizards as well as Chief Hiccup and his Viking companions from the Isle of Berk. Upon opening the portal to the dark universe of Darkmoor, several monsters emerged at the apparent invitation of Dr. Victoria Frankenstein and her freakish assistant Igor. While welcoming guests into Darkmoor, she also announced her intentions of using science to bend the captured Dracula to her will, inviting guests to bear witness to this feat. For the 2 rides, there is Constellation Carousel. It looks very cool at night. I hadn't rode it because I didn't get the chance. Stardust Racers is a steel dueling roller coaster. It is manufactured by Mack Rides and includes 2 5,000-foot pairs of track. The backstory goes, the Celestians of Celestial Park have technology used to venture across the stars like comets. Also, some fun facts about the ride are, if you look at the back of the ride carts, Doc Brown's flux capacitors from the Back to the Future franchise are powering the ride's vehicles. This may be a tribute to the extinct attraction Back to the Future the ride. A behind-the-scenes lore article by the Discovery Universal blog has hinted that Doc Brown was the one who taught the Celestians how to stabilize the comets. The track has no external lighting so that while not illuminated at night, the vehicles look like comets. The star map of the other worlds, mercantile references Stardust racers with the illustration of a shooting star labeled Stardust. Comet imagery in the Meteor Astropub also seems to reference the roller coaster. Now, I can't talk about this ride without mentioning something in particular, that being a 32-year-old guest died on the attraction for what coroners described as multiple blunt force traumas. I know his name has been made public, but I'm not saying it out of respect for him and his family. I know it has been ruled an accident, but I do want to take 30 seconds to honor the person who lost his life on Stardust Racers. The first actual land I went to was Super Nintendo World, and it was the one I was most excited for. And I darn near cried when I first entered Super Nintendo World. My dreams from 2015, when they announced the Nintendo partnership, had finally come true. In Epic Universe, the Warp Pipe features an escalator to take guests to the upper level of the land, and is placed within a larger portal archway as part of the Celestial Park hub area's border thematic motif of astrolabe like interdimensional portals. The archway is marked with the quote, "Here we go!" and features a rotating medallion with a Super Mario Bros. Sprite on one side and a modern Mario render on the other. While a series of warp pipe towers emerging from the top containing various power-ups serve as a beacon, it leads to the foyer of Peach's castle, which features the sun design on the floor and the cloud pattern on the ceiling, as well as paintings of the Bob-omb battlefields and tiny huge island from Super Mario 64. An open doorway leads to the area in Universal Studios Japan. If attendees view the paintings from the doorway, the Bob-omb and the Big Goomba morph into Bowser Jr. holding his magic brush and Peach's golden mushroom and his junior clown car. In Universal Studios Hollywood and Epic Universe, the paintings change into a scene showing Peach, the golden mushroom on a pedestal, and Bowser Jr. in the background, and a scene showing Bowser Jr. stealing the mushroom in his junior clown car. Inside the castle walls can be heard in the background, while inside the castle we also see Mount Beanpole, and in Super Mario Land, a large land formation referencing Mount Beanpole from Super Mario 3D World can be seen. On Mount Beanpole, a variety of enemies and characters are found, including Yoshi, Flomps, Koopa Troopas, Goombas, a Goomba Tower, and a Bill Blaster. Also on Mount Beanpole, trees, fruit, cloud lifts, coins, a warp pipe, and a variety of blocks are found in Universal Studios Japan. The entrance and queue area for Yoshi's Adventure is located below Mount Beanpole. On top of Mount Beanpole stands a gull pole bearing a red flag with Mario's emblem. Before I go into detail on the rides, I also want to talk about the other stuff featured in the land. Also, this will be in chronological order, so the Mario Kart ride will be the last ride I talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is the power-up band key challenges. Mushroom from Bowser Jr. After collecting 3 of the 5 keys, attendees can participate in a boss battle with Bowser Jr. In Bowser Jr. Shadow Showdown, the attraction's queue passes through a corridor with a Bowser Jr. statue and several paintings of him. Attendees then reach a room containing Bowser Jr.'s toy chest and a block resembling a baddie box with Bowser Jr.'s emblem, known as a Bowser Jr. block, near his Junior Clown Car, the magic brush, a poison mushroom, and many more objects. During the attraction, attendees' shadows are projected on a screen and they must swap para bombs at shadow clones of Bowser Jr. and Junior Clown Cars. Bill blasters, which shoot bullet bills, also appear during the attraction. Attendees can obtain power-ups such as super mushrooms and superstars from flying question blocks. During a part of the attraction, attendees need to use fire flowers to defeat Koopa paratroopas and fire piranha plants. After defeating Bowser Jr., attendees jump to reach a goal pole and their score is shown. Each key is guarded by one of Bowser Jr.'s minions. Attendees hold their power-up band in front of a key reader to start a challenge, and again after they have successfully completed the challenge to claim the key. The challenges include Goomba Crazy Crank. The key for this challenge is guarded by a Goomba who sits on top of a rolling hill. Guests need to turn the crank fast enough to knock the Goomba off the hill and retrieve the key Koopa Troopa Power Punch. The key for this challenge is guarded by a Koopa Troopa. The challenge involves timing the chain reaction impact of a series of red POW blocks to launch a moving green shell at a POW block with the key on top to collect it. The shell moves left to right while passing through an upside-down T-shaped pipe, and the attendee must physically hit a red POW block at the right time so the shell passes over the last red POW block when it is activated and launches towards the key. Piranha Plant Nap Mishap. The key for this challenge is guarded by a red piranha creeper. Guests have to turn off all the ringing alarm clocks to prevent the piranha creeper from waking up. Bob-omb a Kaboom room. The key for this challenge is guarded by a Bob-omb. It is located at Universal's Japan and Epic Universe at the end of the underground maze after attendees walk through a passageway that gives them the illusion of being shrunk down. As a result of this, the Bob-omb appears giant. The underground theme from Super Mario Bros. Plays inside the maze. The challenge involves guests assembling pieces of a key and putting them together on a touchscreen before the Bob-omb explodes. Thwomp Panel Panic. The key for this challenge is guarded by a thwomp. Guests have to turn every flip switch panel on the touchscreens from blue to yellow before the thwomp slams down. Touching one switch can affect others close by. One key can also be obtained by spotting an airship using the binoculars in the park. There are also gift shops like the 1-Up Factory, which is the main gift shop of Super Mario Land. The shop sells various exclusive Super Mario themed merchandise and clothing, including Takoto Mario, a batteryless Mario figurine that walks while it is pushed with either one's hand or a red shell shaped walker. Music played in the store includes Puzzle Plank Galaxy's theme from Mario Galaxy 2, the title theme from Super Mario Maker, and the overworld themes from Mario Bros. 3, New Super Mario Bros. There is also Mario Motors, which is the gift shop you find yourself in after you exit Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, named after the Mario Kart sponsor of the same name. It's a gift shop that mostly sells merchandise themed after the Mario Kart series. The music played in the store includes arrangements of the circuit themes from Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Kart DS, and Moo Moo Meadows from Mario Kart Wii. It is located on the far north side of Super Mario Land next to Bowser's Castle. You also have restaurants like Toadstool Cafe, which is a restaurant run by Toads, with a virtual character named Chef Toad or Chef Canopio in Japan, acting as the head chef The restaurant serves various Super Mario themed dishes and drinks, such as Mario's Bacon Cheeseburger, the Super Mushroom Pizza Bowl, and the question block Tiramisu. The main dining area features designs of various Super Mario items on the ceiling, as well as a warp pipe and mushroom display at the center. There are also windows in the restaurant showing animated videos of Chef Toad talking to attendees and other Toad chefs preparing food. The foyer of Toadstool Cafe has 2 gift boxes, a small one and a big one. Attendees can use their power-up band to open one, which may contain an item or coins. Mount Valbano Town from Super Mario Odyssey plays inside Toadstool Cafe. Then you have Turbo Boost Treats, which is a food kiosk themed after the Mario Kart series that sells popcorn. It is located opposite to Bowser's Castle. Then you have Yoshi's Snack Island, which is a food kiosk themed after the Yoshi's Island series that sells Yoshi-themed snack food. It is located on the east side of Super Mario Land. Then you can also enter Donkey Kong Country, which is where we went to straight so we can go ride Minecart Madness. The area also introduces Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong themed power-up bands, which along with the Super Mario themed bands can be used to interact with the Kong letters found throughout the area. An arrangement of DK Island Swing from Donkey Kong Country plays in the area. The entrance to Donkey Kong Country transitions from a brick tunnel to a cave tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, visitors cross a bridge and pass through a circular arch inspired by the ruins from Donkey Kong Country Returns. There is also Rambi's Bongo Breakout, which is a rhythm-based conga activity where 3 participants operate a pair of congas each and must hit them in time with the lights next to the Rambi crate above them. When the lights flash rainbow colors, the participants must hit the congas repeatedly, after which an animatronic of Rambi emerges from the crate. There is also Funky's Fly-In By, which is a gift shop that sells exclusive Donkey Kong themed merchandise. It is based on the shop of the same name from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. There is also the Bubbly Barrel, known as Jungle Bee Shakes in Japan, which is a food kiosk that sells Donkey Kong themed food and drinks, including the DK Crush Sundae and the DK Wild Hot Dog. Its stall is a large barrel with a thatch roof. You can also meet characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, and Donkey Kong. Now we get into the first 2 rides I did that day. The first being Minecart Madness. Minecart Madness is a roller coaster attraction that takes place in the Golden Temple at the back of the area. Murals inspired by those of the temple levels from Donkey Kong Country Returns appear on the walls of the queue area, including one based on 25M from the Donkey Kong arcade game. Further into the queue area, talking animatronics of Cranky Kong and Squawks can be found, with Cranky Kong explaining the narrative of the attraction. Visitors board the minecart roller coasters to chase the Tiki Tak tribe away from the Golden Temple to protect the Golden Banana. An animatronic of Dixie Kong appears at the beginning of the actual ride. An arrangement of Burnin' Bop from Donkey Kong Country Returns plays in the queue area, while one of Mind Menace from the same game plays during the ride. The ride was super fun, and it actually felt like you were riding in the minecart from the minecart levels in the Donkey Kong Country games. And it was a perfect idea for a roller coaster. I also love the animatronics in this ride, especially the animatronics of Cranky Kong and Squawks in the queue. One thing you will know in this video is that Universal Epic Universe has a lot of very impressive animatronics. The next ride I did in Super Nintendo World before I went to the next land is Yoshi's Adventure. Yoshi's Adventure is a ride where attendees travel in Yoshi-like vehicles, with a Yoshi's egg-shaped vehicle being offered as a wheelchair-accessible option, to search for Captain Toad and 3 mysterious eggs by using a map The entrance is a large yellow warp pipe located at the center of Super Mario Land. The ride lasts for approximately 5 minutes, and each vehicle can hold up to 2 people. The ride first transports attendees over a bridge, then into a warp pipe tunnel through a scene with 2 Yoshis carrying Baby Mario and Baby Peach being pursued by Kamek and some Fly Guys, with Poochie nodding his head at passing vehicles at the exit. Additionally, another branching part within the pipe tunnel has a view out into space looking at Starship Mario. Exiting the pipe, the Yoshis arrive in a desert jungle area and finally to Captain Toad's location at the end of the jungle. The ride's queuing area features designs and murals from Yoshi's New Island, which would be incorporated into the first section of the Universal Studios Hollywood queue for Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. Music that plays in the attraction includes the main level theme from Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. In the queuing area, the main theme from Yoshi's Story at the bridge, the opening theme from Yoshi's Island in the tunnel, the desert theme from New Super Mario Bros. Wii in the desert area, and Captain Toad goes forth from Super Mario 3D World in the jungle area. I think this is my second favorite ride in Super Nintendo World. I'll get to my number 1 favorite ride at Super Nintendo World towards the end of the video. And it may or may not be biased because Yoshi is one of my favorite Mario characters. He's also my main when I play Mario Kart. We also ended up getting a red Yoshi, I think. Also, just one more note about this ride before I show the photos at Super Nintendo World. You get a very awesome view of Super Nintendo World when you ride this ride. Now, here are most of the Super Nintendo World photos, minus the photos from Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge.
Stay close to me, my love. You've taught me that life can be revived. With a smiling face, the meaning of my destiny can be changed. For your love, I can rule the world, my love. Can you see that we can all survive? If you'll be by my side, the world will be a better place for us all.
Now we go into the next world, which is my second most anticipated world, being the Dark Universe. Dark Universe is themed around the Universal Classic Monsters, a brand of horror films and horror characters featured in Universal films from the 1920s through 50s. Dark Universe is set in the fictional village of Darkmoor, based on the unnamed village from Universal's Frankenstein films, though incorporating elements of many other classic films and novels. It has two rides, being Curse of the Werewolf and Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. You can also meet characters like the Bride of Frankenstein, Darkmoor violinists, Frankenstein's monster, the Invisible Man, and Igor. There are also restaurants like the Burning Blade Tavern and Doss Steakhouse and D. Lacey's Cottage. There are also shopping opportunities like Darkmoor Monster Makeup Experience, the Guild of Mystics, the Manor Storehouse, and Pretorius's Scientific Oddities. I want to go over some fun facts, but before I do so, I want to go over the timeline and the lore of this land, because it is so cool. The in-universe timeline for the Dark Universe and Epic Universe, mainly focusing on the dates and years given by the park itself, though may include information given from the films which they are based on. There may be some contradictory years given, so take most of this with a grain of salt. We have 428 being the year of construction for Darkmoor's village burgomaster's building, sometimes attributed as Darkmoor's year of founding. Next is 1482, when Notre Dame cathedral bell ringer Quasimodo is publicly tortured, then shown mercy by would-be victim Esmeralda. Quasimodo goes on to save Esmeralda from the lust of his master Frollo at the apparent cost of his own life. Events of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1923. Next is 1820, being the year Alphonse Frankenstein is born. Next is 1824, being the year Caroline Barrafort was born. Next is 1837, being the year Martin Talbot dies and is laid to rest in the Talbot family crypt of Lalani Village, Wales. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But also that's the family crypt in the Wolfman. 1843 is the year Heinrich Henry von Frankenstein is born to Baron Alphonse and Caroline Beaufort Frankenstein of Darkmoor. 1845 is the year Elizabeth Talbot dies and is laid to rest in the Talbot family crypt. February 23rd, 1848 is when the Boulevard des Capucins massacre occurred in Paris, France, possibly the Boulevard Massacre, in which the deformed Eric was born. Real World History and the Phantom of the Opera from 1925. In 1849, Caroline Beaufort Frankenstein died at age 22. In 1852, Elizabeth Clark was born. We had some stuff happen in 1875 with something in Darkmoor. Dr. Henry Frankenstein marries Elizabeth Clark. Henry isolates himself to create a living man from human remains. The monster inadvertently kills several Darkmoor residents, including the young girl Maria, and Dr. Waldman. Monster is presumed dead when an angry mob traps it in a burning windmill. Dr. Septimus Pretorius visits Darkmoor to join with Henry, is rebuked, and establishes Pretorius's scientific oddities. Monster survives, is educated by M.D. Lacey, then joins forces with Pretorius to blackmail Henry into making the Bride of Frankenstein as a friend. When the bride rebukes the creature blows up Henry's lab, though spares Henry and Elizabeth, killing Pretorius and himself. The bride survives in secret. Those are the events of both Frankenstein from 1931 and The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. Also, Wolf von Frankenstein is born to Dr. Henry and Elizabeth Frankenstein. A couple of things in 1880. Elsa Hutchinson was born, also the death of Henry von Frankenstein, according to the Frankenstein family tree, contradicted by his crypt journal. In the 1890s, the events of the Phantom of the Opera in 1925, as well as the presumed events of Dracula from 1931 and Dracula's Daughter from 1936 occur. May of 1896 is a possible year for the events of The Phantom of the Opera, real-world history, chandelier drops, and the Police Garnier inspiring Gaston Leroux's novel. In 1897, Bram Stoker's novel Dracula was written and published, presumably based on Count Dracula's Torment of Mina Seward Harker, real-life history. The book is epistolary and is shown in Son of Dracula from 1943. 1899 is the death of Alphonse Frankenstein. Now we entered the 1900s, with 1905 being the year Peter von Frankenstein is born to Dr. Wolf and Elsa Hutchinson von Frankenstein. Possibly disputed date, as Peter is shown to be 5 in Son of Frankenstein. Also, Suzanne Porter is born. 1921 is the year the tomb of Imhotep was uncovered by a British Museum Egyptology expedition led by Sir Joseph Whemple. A member of Whemple's team silently reads from the Scroll of Thoth, inadvertently remaining Imhotep. Imhotep escapes and spends the next 10 years killing the members of the expedition, while the man who awakened him is institutionalized for a psychotic break. That's the opening of The Mummy from 1932. In 1931, Imhotep used the alias of Ardith Bey to uncover the tomb of his lover, Princess Ankh-Su-Namun, and her mummy was placed in the Cairo Museum. Imhotep attempts to resurrect Ankh-Su-Namun's soul in her reincarnation, Helen Grosvenor, but is thwarted when Ankh-Su-Namun herself is horrified and prays to Isis to destroy the scroll, Imhotep, and send her own soul back to the afterlife. November 20th of that same year was a date on a journal entry by Dr. Henry Frankenstein, apparently recounting the day before the creation of his original monster in 1930. In 1933, Baroness Elizabeth Clark Frankenstein died at age 81. She is laid to rest in the Frankenstein family crypt. A few things to go over in 1935. Dr. Henry Frankenstein died at the age of 92, is laid to rest in the Frankenstein family crypt, while his son, Wolf, succeeds as Baron of Darkmoor, according to the crypt in Monsters Unchained. Also, Baron Wolf von Frankenstein travels to Darkmoor with his wife Elsa and son Peter, is manipulated by the original Igor into reanimating the monster, which Igor in turn manipulates into killing the villagers who wronged him. After a confrontation, Igor and the monster are presumed dead, though actually survive in secret. Events of Son of Frankenstein, 1939. The last thing in 1935 worth noting is Igor and the monster travel to Visaria and manipulate Wolf's brother, Dr. Ludwig von Frankenstein, placing Igor's brain in the monster's body, blinding the Igor monster. In December 7th, 1941, the Axis Japanese attack Pearl Harbor motivates Dr. Jack Griffin's apparent grandson, Frank Griffin Jr., to use Monocaine to turn invisible and fight the Nazi power overseas. Those are the events of The Invisible Agent from 1942, although the Invisible Man sequels are yet confirmed in the Dark Universe. The 1950s is the presumed decade for the events of The Creature of the Black Lagoon from 1954, This Island, Earth, 1955, and The Mole People from 1956. In 1950, Dr. Wolf von Frankenstein died at age 75. In 1973, Charity King was born in 1974. And Elsa Hutchinson Frankenstein died at age 94. In 1982, U.S. Outpost 31 in Antarctica was terrorized by the shape-shifting alien, The Thing. Those are the events of The Thing from 1982. In 1988, Peter von Frankenstein died, supposed aged 83 at some point in the 1990s. Christine Wollstone died in 1993. Suzanne Porter Frankenstein died at age 89. In 1997, Dartmoor's Kay Lawrence was born in 2002. Gregory Frankenstein died, orphaning his daughter Victoria Frankenstein. In 2012, Charity King Frankenstein died at age 39. In 2020, the creation of Dr. Victoria Frankenstein's own creature inspired Henry's, with assistance from the new Igor. This creation was experimented on with the blood of the captured Larry Talbot, Gilman, Brides of Dracula, and Eric, Phantom of the Opera. Bride of Frankenstein claims the creature is 3 years old in 2025. In 2025, a couple of things worth noting. Visaria Harbinger published a newspaper with a story about the Frankenstein's family's infamous history, and Dr. Victoria Frankenstein's experiments in Frankenstein Manor also include a story on Dartmoor resident Kay Lawrence seemingly being abducted by the Gill Man, spotted in Dartmoor's wetlands. Also, Dr. Victoria Frankenstein demonstrates her Dracula experiments to control the captured Count Dracula. Dracula breaks free, releasing other bound monsters including Quasimodo, Eric, Dracula's brides, the Gill Man, Larry Talbot, and Anck-su-namun. Dracula is hit by a sunlight beam by Victoria while she reclaims control of her facility, and a swarm of Dracula's bats attack Igor, possibly killing him. Those are the events of Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment. I know that was a lot to get through, but it is pretty nice little rabbit hole. As for some fun facts, when the bell rings in the village, it signals that the flames on the Burning Blade Tavern will be activated. The fog emerging from the Dartmoor well may be a partial tribute to Halloween Horror Nights, which uses the phrase "see you in the fog," with the fog symbolizing the event itself due to the usage of smoke machines. As the land is set in the 2020s, it generally follows the continuity of the Universal classic films. There are various characters such as the Phantom of the Opera, Quasimodo, Dr. Jekyll, and the Invisible Man, whose continued lifespan in Dartmoor is unexplained. Other characters such as Maleva and Igor appear to be separate characters inspired by the originals. As mentioned earlier, Dark Universe's score was composed by Danny Elfman, well known for his work on movies such as Beetlejuice, Batman, Spider-Man, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. Some of the skulls at the entry have fangs. The lists of films represented in Dark Universe includes The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Son of Frankenstein, and the Wolfman, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, This Island Earth, The Mole People, possibly Deadly Mantis, and The Thing. Also alluded to are Nosferatu, possibly Tarantula, An American Werewolf in London, The Phantom of the Opera remake from 1989, and Van Helsing. And finally, a vampiric crest is visible in several places of the Dark Universe. The crest appears on the bell tower over the sign for Das Steakhouse, in a painting with Das Steakhouse on a war banner used by the monster forces during the war for Dartmoor. Another portrait has the symbol appear on the pendant of a male vampire, possibly Dracula. It is on the frames of Das Steakhouse's portraits on the crest for Dartmoor, visible at the Burgomaster's office, and on Dracula's coffin in the queue for Monsters Unchained. The first ride I rode at Dark Universe was Curse of the Werewolf, which is a family roller coaster. The attraction follows an original story inspired by the classic 1941 horror film The Wolfman. On the outskirts of Dartmoor Village is the camp of the Guild of Mystics. Here guests learn of the curse of the werewolf from the guild's wolf seer, Maleva, who tells them they have the curse. Before boarding a vehicle from the Carpathian Carriage Company and embarking into the cursed woods, here riders find themselves moving at high speeds while pursued by the werewolves. This ride was originally going to be an amphitheater according to that 2019 concept art, but it was scrapped due to presumably budget cuts. The original concept might be found in theme parks. The queue passes through a camp for the Guild of Mystics. Visible in the queue are advertisements for the Wolf Seer Maleva, a barn which vehicles pass through, and a sight at the full moon upon boarding a vehicle belonging to the Carpathian Carriage Company. Riders are given an ominous message by Maleva. The ride vehicles spin around on their tracks and move at 37 miles per hour. The vehicle passed through the woods and then the barn where werewolves are overhead. After exiting the carriage, goes backwards and passes through the barn again before escaping. The final scene returns to the camp where Maleva waits for riders, warning them of the full moon. As for some fun facts, Maleva takes her name from the old Romani woman whose son Bela was afflicted with lycanthropy in the original 1941 film. The Guild of Mystics substitutes the dated and ethnically stereotypical portrayal of Romani peoples in the original film. It is yet unclear if this Maleva is of any relation to the Maleva from the original film. The cane of the classic Wolfman, Larry Talbot, appears in the queue. Maleva, who also has these canes stored in her belt. The Carpathian Carriage is inspired by how in Dracula, Jonathan Harker Renfield in the 1931 film was transported through Carpathian mountains to the castle of Count Dracula, and a carriage sometimes implied to have been driven by Dracula himself. In the queue are various tarot cards referencing the fortune tellers of the original film. The imagery on these cards is inspired by the original Wolfman film, including a depiction of the film version of Maleva. The design of the tablecloth has werewolf faces. The design of Larry Talbot's cane is on the back of the cards. A framed image of the original Maleva appears right by the entrance to the ride. On the side of Evardo, imagery used throughout the attraction is taken from the star symbol, which marked palms of the Wolfman's victims, and the wolf symbol of Larry Talbot's cane. In the artworks, the star appears dangling from Maleva's staff, along with a wolf symbol. In the barn is the red jacket of David Kessler from An American Werewolf in London. Near Larry Talbot's cane in the queue is a small cabinet of potions. One is a purple heart-shaped one, possibly referencing the trope of love potions, and potentially love song Love Potion number 9, where such a potion is bought from a Romanian woman, though it also resembles but is not identical to the youth potions from Death Becomes Her from 1992. In the pavement near the attraction are human footprints emerging from the woods, which then turn to wolf tracks as they approach the attraction. Also was a fun ride, but my only complaint is that you only get to see a static prop of the werewolf for a few seconds, and my dad didn't even see it all. That's right, my dad rode a ride called Curse the Werewolf and didn't even see the werewolf. But before I go crazy over this, let's move on to the next and final ride I rode here in Dark Universe. So the next ride might just be one of my favorite rides at Epic Universe, maybe one of my favorite rides at Universal as a whole. Monsters Unchained, The Frankenstein Experiment. As mentioned earlier when I was going over the timeline/lore, the attraction is set in 2025 and centers around Dr. Victoria Frankenstein, descendant of the infamous Dr. Henry Frankenstein. Spiteful of the legacy of her family was marked with, Victoria recreated her ancestors' creation and is on a mission to assemble and control all monsters. Guests entered Frankenstein Manor as witnesses to her most recent endeavor to control the vampire Count Dracula, only for Dracula to escape and unleash the other monsters of the manor. It has a pretty interesting development history. Originally, a Van Helsing-inspired robot arm attraction was once planned for Islands of Adventure before said film bombed, leading to Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey being created instead. Monsters Unchained is a spiritual successor to said planned ride, with a team led by creative director Gregory Hall. The attraction opened in 2025 and was considered to be quite likely Universal's most ambitious project to date. For its experienced artistry, storytelling, and advanced audio animatronic figures, the queue is a winding path through Frankenstein Manor. Upon crossing the bridge and entering the manor's, riders pass through a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. In this corridor, the words "Who's the real monster?" flashing in blue on the wall. Guests may take a detour through a courtyard garden containing a columbarium of Victoria's artifacts, dead bodies, and crates of chemicals. Also in this courtyard is the Frankenstein family crypt, where the epitaphs of Henry and Elizabeth Frankenstein are visible. Henry's having been desecrated to read Maker of Monsters. Upon re-entering the manor, a parlor is then entered with a photograph of Henry and Elizabeth Frankenstein over top a mantle. In the fire below is a newspaper criticizing Victoria's presence in Darkmoor. On the wall opposite the mantle is a family tree of the Frankenstein family, with Victoria's image. The most recent boxes marked by Igor are scattered along the floor, and a large container of organs appear and glows blue if touched. The ceiling is decorated with an expansive mural showing monsters and a thunderstorm in the next room. Guests are greeted by the corpse of the original Frankenstein's monster in a tank. Scanned by machinery throughout the room are notes on the monster's anatomy written by Dr. Henry Frankenstein and his successor Victoria. After this, guests exit into the entry hall lined with murals of the dead and go up the staircase. On the higher level of the mansion is a portrait of Dr. Henry Frankenstein overlooking the mansion. In a projection room are illustrations of the various monsters in Victoria's possession, with Dracula above them all. And the cabinets along the walls are Victoria's research into mirror devices able to reflect sunlight as a deadly beam against vampires. On the wall opposite, a projector plays camera footage of Victoria's missions to capture various monsters, including Victoria leads a team through the woods at night on a full moon. They set a bear trap and Victoria informs the team, "Don't kill it, I need it alive." There are growls as members of the team are attacked by the monster. A team member is dragged off while another is attacked by a humanoid feral figure, and panic sets in the team. The Wolfman then pounces on the one holding the camera, growling and grunting as the camera turns to static. A team in daylight hunts through misty arboreal wetlands of green waters while Victoria tells them, "Stay alert, it hunts like an alligator, and you're made of meat, it will come to you." The team goes into the water searching for their target as Victoria informs them to look for the glow of its eyes. Something lashes at a member of the team before the camera person is dragged under the water, and the gill man lunges at them. The footage cuts back with reddish waters and the sound of a man wailing. Victoria's assistant Igor turns on the camera aimed at his eye. Behind him are many glowing-eyed giant bats which flap their wings at the camera footage cuts out. The footage cuts back to a cemetery where Victoria tells her team they can see in the dark better than you can. The team then enters a locked stone building and Victoria tells them to stay silent. The team explores and Victoria tells them to stay perfectly still as the camera pans up, revealing a bride of Dracula in the chamber. The bride crawls backwards up the wall, hissing and snarling. When the footage comes back, the bride's fangs are biting at the camera and the man collapses before saying, "We got her." Further on, there are scientific notes on one of Dracula's vampire bats, the live one of these bats, behind glass and contained through pulsing electricity. Continuing on is a portrait of Dr. Victoria Frankenstein looking across at her grandfather's. The pre-show is in a chamber with a Frankenstein family crest and various belongings of Victoria. Guests are greeted by Victoria's assistant in a metal suit. The figure reveals himself to be Igor and gives a demonstration of the catacombs navigation unit until Victoria orders him to let in her guests. Moving into the next room, Victoria meets her guests in person, explains her mission to the wrongs of how the Frankenstein family is seen. She reveals her creation, explaining him to be a friend and not a monster, as he is so deemed. Victoria then explains the day's demonstration to control the will of the infamous vampire Count Dracula, whom she has imprisoned within an electric device. In the midst of this presentation, Dracula projects his form into the electricity of the Tesla coil behind Victoria to badmouth the doctor and her creation, but not the guests. To little avail. After this is done, the guests entered the chambers connecting the mansion to the catacombs and board their catacomb navigation unit. Now we get to the ride where vehicles first pass by Igor in his control booth controlling the navigation units. In the following chamber, a large bell is rung over the riders' heads by Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. The guests then enter Victoria's lab, where they are greeted by the Phantom of the Opera providing musical accompaniment on a fire-spinning pipe organ. Victoria begins her procedure with her creation using his body to complete the circuit connecting to the bounds of Dracula's body. However, the energy turns red and Count Dracula escapes, casting riders into the darkness. Deeper in the catacombs are metal coffins containing the brides of Dracula, who crawl out and swarm at their husband's command. One attacks Frankenstein's creation while Victoria uses her electrified crossbow to fight another. Light flashes as the vehicles drop and have the Gill Man snarl at them before making off. Riders are then pursued by the Wolfman from the barred off adjoining chamber and tunnels above, where he howls at a hole to the surface like the moon. Before the Wolfman can further terrorize Victoria's guests, he is grabbed by Victoria's creation, who uses a nearby sparking cord to electrify the werewolf's neck. After this, the vehicle passes upon the tomb of the mummy, Princess Ankh-Sunamun. The mummy's sarcophagus opens in a swarm, which casts bandages and serpents across the catacombs while Dracula speaks ill of his captor. Victoria then barges in while shooting off another monster, telling her guests not to listen to him. Imhotep then lunges at guests, but is warded off by Victoria throwing a torch behind the mummy, harming her with fire. The vehicles are met again by Dracula and his brides, while Victoria calls for Igor to filter sunlight into the chambers. Dracula knocks over some materials for shade and lunges for guests, but the monster uses a mirror to reflect sunlight onto his chest, harming the Count. Triumphant, Victoria declares that all monsters will bow before the name Frankenstein, which Igor translates as a goodbye, before getting swarmed and attacked by Dracula's bats. As for some fun facts, this attraction identifies the Frankenstein family with Latin credo, mortui vivos docent, meaning the dead teach the living, and which is identified with justifying the dissection of human remains for science. The Frankenstein family crest has a Grim Reaper design, symbol of death, and Catechus symbol of medicine. According to the Universal website, the Phantom of the Opera's pipe has 14 individual flame points, activated in synchronization to the music played. The castle's design is inspired by the now demolished Chateau Miranda in Wallonia, Belgium. Hopefully I'm pronouncing all that right. Some of the statues in the queue have corpse-like features and stitching. The tallest tower is scorched by lightning with a cracked rooftop, referencing how the Frankensteins are known to animate their creations. There are various references and Easter eggs to the classic Universal monster films throughout the attraction. The Frankenstein family crypt appears in the queue with visible epitaphs for Henry and Elizabeth Frankenstein. Henry is identified as Heinrich von Frankenstein, maker of monsters, as was seen on his tomb in 1939's Son of Frankenstein. Both are said to have died in the 1930s, the decade in which the Frankenstein films were released, with Henry's specifying 1935, the year of A Bride of Frankenstein's release. In the fireplace is a Saturday edition of Visaria Harbinger's newspaper with the headline "Shadows over Dartmoor." This references the fictional town of Visaria, which appeared in the later Frankenstein sequels, identified as a town 3 days by carriage from the village where Henry made his monster. There are 2 stories on the front page of the Visaria Harbinger. One covers Dr. Victoria's presence in Dartmoor, explaining why she threw the paper in the fire. This story talks about the history of the Frankenstein family, including the creation of the Bride of Frankenstein, the activities of Henry's sons, Baron Wolf von Frankenstein from 1939's Son of Frankenstein, and Ludwig Frankenstein from 1942's Ghost of Frankenstein, connected to the monster, and Ludwig's daughter, Baroness Elsa Frankenstein, being tied to a riot at the annual Festival of the New Wine, referencing 1943's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. An obscured section of the story, which referred to Henry's creation as an abomination, is circled in red ink. The other front page story on the Harbinger is local man finds strange footprints in woods, covering tracks identified as belonging to the Gill Man, as being at the marshlands on the outskirts of Dartmoor by Dartmoor resident Mike Rizzoli. The story identifies Gilman as responsible for the abduction of a 28-year-old Dartmoor resident named Kay Lawrence, a name taken from the female lead of the original Creature from the Black Lagoon. The deceased corpse of the original Frankenstein's monster appears in a tank getting scanned by Victoria's machines. It is identified as specimen V1.0 H. Frankenstein and has a face closely modeled after Boris Karloff and Jack Pierce's makeup design. The canonicity of Frankenstein's sequels to Dark Universe has yet to be identified, but if they are, then it is possible that the original Igor's brain is within. Over the mantle in the queue is a photograph of Henry Frankenstein and his wife Elizabeth from the original films. A family tree of the Frankenstein family appears in the queue, identifying Victoria's placement in the Frankenstein family tree. This identifies Victoria as not only being descended from Henry Frank and Elizabeth from the 1931 film, but also Wolf and Elsa von Frankenstein from Son of Frankenstein. Henry's journaling sometimes contains quotes from Mary Shelley's original novel. In one journal entry, Henry writes, "Life is dear to me, and I will defend it," which paraphrases a quote from the creature in the original book, who said, "Life, although it may only be an accumulation of anguish, is dear to me, and I will defend it." A chalkboard in the study mentions Henry Frankenstein's father's words about an orange blossom wedding traditions to him from the 1931 film. Another chalkboard mentions Victoria's considerations of using monster blood in her creation. Here she references the Gill Man as having regenerative properties similar to what he demonstrated in the sequels to Creature from the Black Lagoon. She also refers to Quasimodo as subject 1923, referencing the year his film released, and the Phantom of the Opera as E. Dessler, using the name Eric Dessler from the 1989 non-universal horror film adaptation of Phantom of the Opera. In the queue is a fossilized gill man's hand, referencing what made archaeologists travel back to the Black Lagoon and the creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954. A pendant is inspired by the Star of David, which Count Dracula wore in the 1931 film, also appears behind glass. Along with this are 3 long-nailed fingers with red rings kept in glass tubes. These presumably belong to the Brides of Dracula. Another case has various maps which were used by Victoria in her pursuits of the various monsters. Amongst them being a map of the Nile River in Egypt, with a noted site yet to be uncovered, and a map of the catacombs below Castle Dracula. The illustrations of the castle and Victoria's schematics appear to depict Corvin Castle, Dora, I don't know how to pronounce that, castle, a 15th century Gothic Renaissance castle, which Romanian tourism claims as the site where the historic Vlad Tepes Vlad Dracula was held captive by Transylvania's voivode John Hunyadi. Said site was used for filming the horror films like The Nun and the remake of Nosferatu. The platform and machinery used by Henry to create his monster is visibly elevated in the pre-show room. Wooden stakes appear at the base of Dracula's open coffin. This references 1931's Dracula, which had Van Helsing kill Dracula by use of wooden stakes. The coffin is also filled with dirt, referencing how Dracula's coffin must be filled with soil of his homeland when he travels. Near Dracula's coffin is a black and white photograph of Mary Philbin as Christine Day from the 1925 Universal adaptation of Phantom of the Opera. Also near the coffin is a stray violin. This could be an allusion to multiple things, including the 1943 Claude Rains Universal remake of Phantom of the Opera, in which Eric was a violinist, and the ending shot shows his violin by his mask. The violinist characters in Darkmoor and/or Swan Lake playing at the beginning of 1931's Dracula. Nearby Dracula's coffin is a sarcophagus of original design representing that of Imhotep from The Mummy. This sarcophagus shows snakes slithering out of Imhotep's mouth, which was not in the Mummy films, but may be inspired by a shot of a snake coming out of a mummy's throat in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and how Imhotep frequently unhinged his jaw in the 1999 remake of The Mummy. On a nearby table is an ancient Egyptian scroll, likely referencing the Scroll of Thoth, the ancient artifact used to reanimate Imhotep in the original Mummy. When Frankenstein's monster protects guests from the Wolfman, the image recreates the poster for Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943. The first Universal monster crossover film, illustrations of various monsters sought out by Victoria appear in the queue. In the pre-show monster hunting footage, Igor holds the camera up to himself in a pose which references the 1999 found footage horror film, The Blair Witch Project. The footage overall is reminiscent of said horror film. The trapdoors behind the bookshelves seen in the queue are reminiscent of that which was used to access the lab in Mel Brooks' classic comedy, Young Frankenstein. The Mummy identified in this attraction as Imhotep's late lover Ankh-Sunamun, rather than Imhotep himself. Imhotep is the subject of Revenge of the Mummy and other Universal parks. In the projection room is an ancient Egyptian scroll which seemingly depicts the weighing of the heart from historic 19th century Book of the Dead. However, Anubis' scale is broken. The heart of the dead is absent, and nearby is a figure chained in a sarcophagus, similarly to the mummy seen later in the attraction. Osiris, the god of the underworld, is absent from his shrine, though the four canopic sons of Horus remain, as do his sister consorts Isis and Nephthys. According to Orlando creative Jamie Rowan, this depicts the ritual used to capture a mummy. Nearby is the skull of a predatory mammal, very possibly a wolf. If the organ container box is touched in the queue, it glows blue and shakes. The blueprints for the catacombs navigation unit appear in the queue and are identified as not working. The ceiling of the drawing room has bats painted on it. One of Dracula's brides also seems to be depicted in the mural. Dr. Victoria's Frankenstein's name is an allusion to Victor Frankenstein, the name of the scientist in Mary Shelley's original novel, which was changed to Henry for film. Victoria's assistant Igor is named for the archetype of Frankenstein having an evil hunchbacked lab assistant of the name Igor. However, in the actual 1930s films, Frankenstein's assistant was named Fritz, and Igor was a character in the third film played by Bela Lugosi, who had a crooked neck and manipulated Henry's son into reanimating the monster. The Igor in the attraction also speaks in an impression of actor Peter Lorre, a stereotype associated with the Igor stock character despite Peter Lorre having not played the character. Two of the first monsters encountered on the actual ride experience are Quasimodo, followed by the Phantom of the Opera. This may tribute how one of the first Universal classic monster films of the 1920s was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, followed by Phantom of the Opera, both of which starred Lon Chaney as the monster. Both Quasimodo and Eric are non-paranormal characters who lived centuries prior to the attraction's settings. Their presence in the story of Monsters Unchained has yet to be revealed. Incidentally, both characters are also deformed Frenchmen. The Invisible Man and the Bride of Frankenstein are the only major Universal classic monsters not highlighted in the attraction. Both are meet and greet characters within the Dark Universe area. After passing by Victoria fighting a vampire bride, and before encountering Gilman, the vehicles pass by several dark statues, which highlights briefly flash upon. These statues depict different characters original to HHN. The first statue clearest to see and resembles Eddie Schmidt having a similar mask and chainsaw. The second statue resembles a Grim Reaper type character representing a bone. The third and fourth are more difficult to see, depicting Eddie's brother Jack the Clown and Chance. It has also been rumored that Fear makes an appearance as a statue. It is unclear whether this would link the story of Dark Universe to the continuity of HHN, or if it is simply an Easter egg. Many of the characters represented would not have been active when Henry Frankenstein and his ancestors were active in the catacombs. However, the characters who are HHN icons could potentially be connected to the reaping cycle of Fear. Victoria using an advanced crossbow to fight vampires may be inspired by the movie Van Helsing. Victoria's creature using himself to connect her machinery may likewise be inspired by said picture. Many of Victoria's schematics in the queue have the code 902 or 902E, which refers to Dark Universe's project number behind the scenes, and Monsters Unchained being the park's e-ticket attraction. Added after the attraction's initial opening are various wooden dolls depicting the monsters on the attraction in the candle area of Igor's pre-show. The Frankenstein family tree in the queue contains various details, rather than be illustrated, and Victoria has pasted herself onto the family tree over the family crest. Using an image seemingly from her time in school, The family tree in the queue identifies Henry's wife Elizabeth as having had the maiden name Clark rather than her book surname of Lavenza. This is a tribute to actress Mae Clarke, who portrayed Elizabeth in the 1931 film. Henry's parents, Alphonse Frankenstein and Caroline Beaufort Frankenstein, retained their names from Mary Shelley's original novel. Baron von Wolf von Frankenstein, his wife Elsa, and their son Peter are characters from Son of Frankenstein. Adjacent to their placement on the family tree are various fated members, which would align with Dr. Ludwig von Frankenstein and his daughter Baroness Elsa from Ghost of Frankenstein and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. According to this tree, Henry appears to have had two brothers, which would adhere to the original Frankenstein novel where Victor had two brothers named William and Ernest Frankenstein. Baron Wolf von Frankenstein's wife is given the maiden name Elsa Hutchinson, named after her actress Josephine Hutchinson. Victoria's father, Gregory Frankenstein, is a tribute to Gregory Hall, the creative director of the attraction. An unnamed Frankenstein, Victoria's apparent second cousin twice removed, has the face of Universal creative Jamie Rowan. On Twitter, Rowan identified this member of the family as being named Anna Frankenstein. Victoria's apparent mother, Christine Wollstone's surname comes from Wollstonecraft, the maiden name of Frankenstein author Mary Shelley. Henry's year of death, according to the family tree, is 1880, though his crypt in the queue identifies him as having died in 1935. According to the years given on the family tree compared to the crypt, Dark Universe's Wolf logistically was 60 years old during the events of Son of Frankenstein, while actor Basil Rathbone was only 47 when he played the character. In further incongruence, Peter Frankenstein, who was 5 years old in Son of Frankenstein, would have been already 30 according to the family tree. Meanwhile, the family tree claims Henry died in 1880, 5 years after Wolf's birth, as opposed to recent events of Son of Frankenstein. While many members of the Frankenstein family tree have their names and faces faded, one woman named Charity King appears to have been deliberately scratched out. This family member appears to have been a romantic partner to Victoria's father, who outlived both Victoria's parents and died in 2012. Vultures, a creature associated with death and scavenging, decorate the family tree. Wrapped up corpses stashed by Victoria are visible in the queue. In Victoria's sitting room are two books stacked on cardboard boxes. One is a history of the Second World War. The other has the illustration of a sailing ship with a Spanish cross on the front. A crossed-out idea by Victoria on her chalkboard in the queue contemplates, then rejects the notion of using vampire blood in her creation. This is likely an allusion to the story of the Halloween Horror Nights haunted house Universal Monsters The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, where the Bride of Frankenstein resurrects Frankenstein's monster using blood harvested from Dracula's brides. In concept art, the portrait of Henry seen in the queue was torn. This was not the case for the final attraction. The specimen list of Victoria's monsters is labeled GR390430, representing the name Greg and Gregory Hall's birthday. As I mentioned earlier, this has to be one of my favorite rides at Epic Universe. I love the story, the theme, the lore, and I can't forget about the advanced animatronics. Also, gotta love that it feels like a love letter to the Universal Monster fans. So this is the last ride I rode at Dark Universe, but don't worry, I will come back later to grab some lunch. But before I go on to the next land, here are all the photos I took at Dark Universe. The next land I ended up going to is How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk. I will admit that this is probably my least favorite of the 4 IP lands, but it is still visually stunning. One thing I will mention is that that this takes place between the second and third movies, making it Berk 2.5. Everywhere you look, there is something going on. Riders racing on the backs of a pack of dueling dragons, Vikings wandering the streets, and Hiccup's high-speed roller coaster creating skimming over the water and around the village. It really feels as though the village is alive, and thanks to the colorful buildings and structures inhabited by dozens of moving dragon figures. Some are full-scale animatronics and some are simpler figures that have repetitive movement, but they all come together to make Berk come to life. There is a lot to see in this land, and you really feel a sense of exploration and discovery. You make your way around. The land is basically a big circle, but it's filled with bridges, pathways, and offshoots that lead to the attractions, shops, and dining locations, and there are a lot of each. So let's take a look at them in detail. The Land's End has 3 rides, those being Hiccup's Wing Gliders, Dragon Racer's Rally, and Fire Drill. I only rode one of the 3 rides, being Hiccup's Wing Gliders. I wouldn't go on Dragon Racer's Rally because I don't do rides that go upside down. I also didn't do Fire Drill because it was a water ride, and I don't really do rides that get you wet. But I make an exception with the Jurassic Park ride at Universal because it's Jurassic Park. There's also Viking Training Camp, which is a play area for the kiddos. You can also meet Astrid with Stormfly, Garber the Belch, Hiccup with Toothless, and Rough Nut and Tough Nut. You can also eat at places like Hooligan's Grog and Gruel, Mead Hall, and Spitfire Grill. And you have the very awesome show that is the Untrainable Dragon. I may have only ridden one ride while I was at the Isle of Berk, but it was still a fun ride to ride, and that is Hiccup's Wing Gliders. It's a family coaster that tells the story of Hiccup inventing a new dragon-like flying machine. Guests board these contraptions in his workshop, only for Toothless to accidentally trigger an unexpected launch, sending riders soaring through the Isle of Berk for an exhilarating dragon's eye view flight with launches and dips, mimicking dragon flight before safely returning to Berk. You start in Hiccup's workshop with the Isle of Berk, where he's developing a new way for Vikings to fly without a dragon. Hiccup and Toothless greet you, but Toothless triggers the machine prematurely, so launching you before the wings are fully attached. You then experience a thrilling flight, swooping and soaring through the land with Toothless and Hiccup reaching speeds up to 45 miles per hour and heights of 50 feet. Hiccup and Toothless chase after you, guiding you back to safety, creating the feeling of truly flying like a dragon. The first launch on this coaster is much more forceful than I thought it would be, and there are some great animatronics surrounding the area that help tell the story. The launch will allow you to get a dragon's eye view of the whole Isle of Berk. You'll fly over the rooftops and right next to guest paths as the coaster skims over the water. The second launch isn't a swing launch, but instead the coaster rolls back and comes to a stop to watch the story scene, then launches again under the dragon racing bleachers. The second half of this coaster has a lot of fun, unique elements that are nice to see on a family coaster, and are slimmed down versions of larger, intimate elements. The onboard audio takes this ride to the next level. The music and dialogue will immerse guests and delight fans of the franchise. The station is also very cool. The double loading makes the operations efficient. The layout is really long and will make a longer than average queue time worth it. However, this queue is probably the worst in the park because it has almost no theming and consists of endless rope switchbacks set up in direct sunlight. There is some shading closer to the stations, so I would say if the line stretches beyond this area, just wait and come back later. This is a great dusk/night ride, and the line will most likely be shorter towards the end of the night. So this is the only ride I rode here in the Isle of Burke, but I will get to that a little later. So in the meantime, before I go to the next land, here are all the photos I took while I was in Burke. The last land I visited for the first time was the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Ministry of Magic. Now this is a super cool one because it takes elements from the Fantastic Beasts movies as well as the Harry Potter movies. You can eat at places like Café Layard de la Sarine, Le Goblet Noir, Bar Moonshine, and Beer Cart, which translates to butter beer. You can also shop at Cosme Acajor Baguettes Magique, where you can get the interactive wands. It also features a show called Le Cirque Arcanu, which features live performers, puppetry, and special effects to bring Fantastic Beasts to life. You can also see Fantastic Beasts like Nifflers, Bowtruckles, Demigeizes, Bundymans, and Mooncalves, just to name a few. There's also other Easter eggs, like as you enter through the portal into 1920s France, the walls are covered in posters meant for muggles. Once you pass through the archway, the ads shift to magical ones promoting everything from frog choir auditions to warnings about not confronting Grindelwald or using the Eiffel Tower as a port key. Don't speak French? Grab a translation app and see what else you can discover. A massive vintage perfume ad to your right as you enter. This is an early version of Divine Magic, the same wizarding fragrance featured in King's Cross Station and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince at the first house on Rue Cauchy. You'll occasionally see a green light glowing in the window, a clear sign of the killing curse in the wizarding world. This is believed to be the site of Grindelwald's first crimes. Look closely in the other windows and you'll spot the eerie skull pipe he used in the Fantastic Beasts films. If you go down to the little alley where Le Goblet Noir is, you'll see a large window into a storefront with paintings. If you're entering from the side near the entrance to the world, this window will be on the left. Stand around for a while because those portraits come to life. Now we talk about the ride, that being Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. It is a ride that takes place 1 year after the Battle of Hogwarts. Spoilers for the Harry Potter movies, but just for a little background. After Lord Voldemort seized control of the British Ministry of Magic in 1997, Dolores Umbridge, the senior undersecretary to the Minister of Magic, led the effort to register and persecute Muggleborns through the Muggleborn Registration Commission. Innocent Muggleborns were put on trial, forced to face Dementors, and imprisoned in Azkaban on false accusations of stealing magic from purebloods. Following Voldemort's defeat by Harry Potter and Kingsley Shacklebolt's reformation of the Ministry, Umbridge was arrested to be brought before a restructured Wizengamot, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. The Art Nouveau surroundings and white tile-lined hallways of the Paris Metro Flux station and Place Cauchy will lead you to a wall of giant fireplaces that the Ministry of Magic production team collaborated with the Fantastic Beasts filmmakers to create. Once you step through, you'll be fully engulfed in green flames and magically transported into the iconic British Ministry of Magic. First, you'll enter the jaw-drop Grandatorium, complete with the newly restored Fountain of Magical Brethren, flying memos swirling through the air, an endless array of ministry offices from floor to ceiling, and enchanted weather ceiling above you. It's the biggest thing Universal Creative has ever built. You'll then wind your way through various recognizable departments and workspaces, including the vacant ministry reception, where wizards typically ask for information before going about their business, a map room that features a magical moving map of the ministry, the Hall of Ministers, where you'll encounter past ministers of magic and get to witness them interacting with one another, a hallway where you'll see a sweeper tidying up various forms, and notices the locker room where you'll see that Harry, Ron, and Neville are training it to become Aurors. The Aurors headquarters, where you'll see them gathering information for cases and be able to spot fantastical Easter eggs such as a tribute to fallen Aurors, and Umbridge's small but extremely ornate pink and gold ministry office, where you'll find her famous cat plates and her former house elf Higgledy. Packing up her things, it's when you hit the staircase after Umbridge's office that you know you're in the final stretch of the queue. Keep your eye out for a variety of details from the films as you venture through the ministry, such as the latest edition of the Daily Prophet. This brings me to why you're here. So, Dolores Umbridge is on trial. Imelda Staunton, who plays Dolores Umbridge in the films, reprises her role. As you board her omnidirectional lift to Wizardgamot courtroom, you quickly learn that the Wicked Witch has wriggled free of the Ministry control. Her goal: repair a broken time turner in the Department of Mysteries and restore Voldemort's reign in late 1998. On the day of Dolores Umbridge's trial, she escaped from custody with the help of several Death Eaters, Corbin Yaxley, Walden McNear, and Bakaros. After retrieving her wand, Umbridge entered a ministry lift and launched an attack on other people, targeting the crowds of witches and wizards who had gathered witnessed her trial. Their breakout triggered a violent and chaotic battle within the Ministry of Magic. The group rampaged through several departments, causing destruction as they made their way toward the Department of Mysteries. When the skirmish reached the Department for Regulation Control of Magical Creatures, mayhem was unleashed when a fierce duel caused the beast containment to break and dozens of magical creatures escaped into the ministry halls. Akamis, Aguris, and a young Runespore, Lacrado, and even a rampaging Urimpent. Umbridge captured Higgledy, the house elf who had once served her, but had since turned against her, and she was bound with the Incarcerus spell. Amidst the chaos, the Urimpent attacked one of the lifts full of people, sending it flying into the air. Umbridge dragged Higgledy into the time room in the Department of Ministries, while ministry officials, along with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, present to witness the trial, pursued them. Umbridge planned to use a time turner to return to the past and restore Voldemort's regime. However, she made the time room erupt in a massive explosion when she inadvertently destroyed all the time turners, shattering her plans. In the confusion as the time room was destroyed, Higgledy escaped and seized back Dolores Umbridge's wand. Leaving her defenseless, Harry and Ron seized the opportunity, capturing the disarmed Dolores Umbridge and parroting her directly into the courtroom, where she was finally subdued. Umbridge was taken back into custody and later sentenced to life imprisonment in Azkaban for her crimes. I think this would have to be my third favorite ride. of all the rides at Epic Universe. The ride vehicles remind me of the elevators from Tower of Terror at Disney. Also, this ride is like Spider-Man and Transformers, that Universal also has. But I think I like this one more than the other two because it has more physical sets and animatronics. I'll show you guys some photos before I go on to the next thing I did. The next thing we did was we went back to Dark Universe to grab some lunch at Doss Steakhouse. It is a quick service / sit down restaurant. The restaurant is themed to vampire stories, visibly influenced by Bram Stoker's Dracula. The backstory is that Doss Steakhouse is an establishment run by vampires and their familiars in the catacombs below the village of Darkmoor. An old inn and dining hall built over the catacombs, Doss Steakhouse will serve humans and other beings in order to prepare them for the vampires to feast on, and will regularly sacrifice blood in the well at the center of the village for the vampires to drink. Doss Steakhouse has indoor and outdoor dining. The indoor dining resembles a crypt and is decorated with Gothic decor. The bodies of staked vampires and several portraits showing history from the perspective of Darkmoor's vampire population. When the lights go red, it signifies that blood has been sacrificed down the well. The outside dining area is separated from the rest of the park by a portcullis and is located under Darkmoor's bell tower. The portraits depict the history of vampires and Darkmoor from the vampires' perspectives. Some of these apparently depict scenes related to Count Dracula. Some of the paintings have faces and monsters which can only be seen under certain lighting. A large painting depicts the War for Darkmoor, a battle which occurred between human forces and the vampires / monsters of Darkmoor, ending in the vampire victory, which resulted in the vampires' well sacrifices. The portrait shows one side taken up by armored human soldiers and the other side by vampires, giant humanoid bat monsters, and werewolves. One portrait portrays an unidentified black-haired maiden, while unconfirmed, some assert this to depict one of Dracula's brides, or his would-be victim, Mina Harker. Another painting shows a scene showing a fortress with an ocean of lava located on the other side of a wall of crypts. Several figures appear in the foreground, with a man presenting coffins as bats fly overhead. A painting seems to depict the halls of vampire abode Possibly Doss Steakhouse itself, female vampires are hidden in the shadows while a male vampire holding a candelabra, possibly Dracula, looks at the viewers. One portrait is a male vampire with bright, almost glowing blue eyes, black hair, and a pendant with the vampire's crest hanging from his neck. It is likely that this portrait depicts Count Dracula himself, as the 1931 Universal depiction of the character similarly had a rounded neck pendant, illuminated blue eyes, and a crow's nest, and similar facial features. I ended up getting the blood orange chicken sandwich while my dad got the Doss burger. As for some fun facts, one of the staked vampires resembles Count Orlok from Nosferatu. The blonde child vampire is likely inspired by Claudia from Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. The interior decor has different details referencing the vampires of Darkmoor. The weather vane atop the adjoining building to Doss Steakhouse depicts the schooner Infusa from Nosferatu, an adaptation of the Demeter from Dracula made into the Vesta in the 1931 film. The chandeliers have wooden stakes from them. Some of the chandeliers have warriors' helmets built into them. This may be an allusion to the War for Darkmoor's outcome. A vampire from the Battle for Darkmoor portrait also appears as one of the impaled vampire corpses in the section of the Dark Universe introductory video that talks about Doss Steakhouse. Chris Facilla hints that as you enter as a guest, you're going to get fed and you might get scooped by vampires, implying that a point in the future vampires might be added as walk-around characters. Two of the staked figures in the restaurant area repetitively represent the late King and Queen of Darkmoor, supposedly killed by Dracula. One of the menu items is called Red Velvet Death, as a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's Mask of the Red Death. Etched onto the wall outside is a Latin phrase translating to "Never forget you exist, by our will alone." Red mist will emerge from the well, possibly inspired by how Dracula could turn into such a mist. The wooden spikes atop the vampire's sacrificial well in the center of Darkmoor is likely inspiredly by the historic Vlad the Impaler. The Batwing crest, which appears on the sign for Doss Steakhouse, also adorns Dracula's coffin in the cube for Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment. A symbol resembling this crest appears over some portraits in the restaurant. The symbol additionally appears on the bell tower outside of Doss Steakhouse. Some of the crypts act as tributes to the Universal creative team, which contributed to Dark Universe. One of the crypts is labeled Olisrac with the words Amicus Monstrum, Latin friend to monsters. Olisrac is Carcillo, spelled backwards, attributing Pete Carcillo, who was senior creative lead on Epic Universe and Dark Universe. Naor Drenum, spelled backwards, is Menard Rowan. The Rowan portion is a tribute to Jamie Rowan, who worked on Dark Universe and more specifically Monsters Unchained. Refus, spelled backwards, is Schaefer, which could tribute Christopher Schaefer. The epitaph Herzog der Warnungen, translated from German, reads the Duke of Warnings. The epitaphs on the crypt throughout Doss Steakhouse are in German. One labeled Regsten der Gravenen translates to regularly buried. A portrait showing the War for Darkmoor and Doss Steakhouse may depict Dracula commanding the monster's forces. The vampire in question is in the center of the monster's forces while making a hand gesture similar to those made by Bela Lugosi's portrayal of the character. He has a black and red cape similar to what is typically associated with the character, while also having slim black armor and long black hair similar to those worn by Dracula in Dracula Untold. Now I go back to Berk to watch The Untrainable Dragon. It is an amazing show that originally premiered at Universal Beijing. It features Hiccup, Toothless, Astrid, and Gobber as they encounter and ultimately understand a mysterious, seemingly untrainable dragon who protects her egg, demonstrating that understanding and empathy can overcome perceived impossibilities. The spectacular uses of advanced animatronics, puppetry, special effects, and music to bring the dragons to life, with Toothless even flying over the audience. Spoiler alert, there is a flying Toothless in this show, and a live Hiccup actor riding on his back. This is by far the best part of The Untrainable Dragon, and one of the coolest things I've seen in any theme park show. Toothless will fly directly over the audience, and he is out there for a long time. There is also a huge puppet of the Untrainable Dragon itself, and it's super dynamic and impressive. There is a section of this show that looks back on past battles fighting dragons, and it's more of a stunt show segment. It really stood out to me, and it was my favorite part of the show. This segment highlights one of the best parts of the show, how the incredibly crisp scenes work with the actors and physical props. Another highlight is the musical score for the show. It's very well used and takes the best parts of the movie score and expands on them. It's a great show, and I recommend watching it if you ever go to Epic Universe. And finally, the last ride I rode was Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. We waited a while before riding this ride because the wait time was long, and we waited for the line to die down a bit. And it was the longest line we waited through while we were there. It is an on-rails ride based on the Mario Kart series, where attendees race through a course designed by Bowser. It is located inside Bowser's castle, with attendees joining Team Mario, those being Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Toad, and Yoshi, against Team Bowser, which is Bowser and the Koopalings. Attendees are seated in vehicles designed after the standard carts from Mario Kart 8, with a steering wheel included with each seat. The ride makes use of augmented reality, as attendees are equipped with AR headsets with Mario caps for the duration of the ride. Attendees travel through different environments modeled after several courses from Mario Kart 8, starting with an area that combines Bowser's Castle and Mario Circuit, followed by 3DS Piranha Plant Slide, Dolphin's Shoals, Twisted Mansion, Cloud Top Cruise, Grumble Volcano with Lava Bowser, and Nintendo 64 Rainbow Road. The ride lasts for approximately 5 minutes, and each cart can hold up to 4 people, 2 rows of 2 seats. Riders primarily score by firing shells color-coded to each of the 4 riders at other racers, and other interactable objects as displayed through their headsets, with the final scores tallied and displayed at the conclusion of the ride. The foyer of Bowser's Castle stairs leading up to a large Bowser statue, while the hall leading to the ride itself features displays of the original 8 cups from Mario Kart 8. There is also a large display of the Golden Cup, which is designed after the Universal logo. The queue winds through 2 storage rooms adorned with various Mario Kart themed banners and signs, a Mario Kart TV broadcasting room, Bowser's Library, a boiler room that serves as a Bob-omb and Mecha Koopa factory, where attendees are given their AR headsets, and 2 Mario Kart TV briefing rooms where Lakitu provides a tutorial for the attraction's interactive elements. The Universal Hollywood version of the ride's queue begins with an underground and a ground section based on the Yoshi franchise before entering Bowser's Castle. Music that plays in the rooms prior to the actual attraction includes the castle theme from the new Super Mario Bros. Wii, at the stairs, the castle theme from Super Mario World, and a boss approaches from Super Mario 3D World in the Trophy Hall, Neo Bowser City's theme from Mario Kart 7 in the storage rooms, Waltz of the Boos from Super Mario Galaxy and Bowser's Library, Mario Kart TV's theme from Mario Kart 8 in the first briefing room, an arrangement of Electra Drome's theme from Mario Kart 8 in the second briefing room, an arrangement of Bowser's Castle theme from Mario Kart Wii in the area after the briefing room, and an arrangement of the main menu theme from Mario Kart Wii in the loading area. In the attraction itself, the Raceway theme from Mario Kart 64, arrangements of Piranha Plant Slides theme from Mario Kart 7, Bowser's Castle, Dolphin Shoals, Twisted Mansions, and Cloud Top Cruises themes from Mario Kart 8, and Rainbow Road's theme from Mario Kart 64 play in their respective areas, while Mario Kart Stadium's theme from Mario Kart 8 plays at the finish line. The Superstar theme from Mario Kart Wii also briefly plays during the transition to the Rainbow Road segment. It was a great ride, and this may be a controversial opinion, but I actually think this is my favorite ride there at Epic. I know people don't like it because it has AR technology and it feels more like a game, but I think the AR goggles are interesting. Also, it was just as competitive as the actual Mario Kart. After that, I decided to buy some merch and we were going to watch Lacercar Canoe in the Harry Potter section. But it was starting to look like it was going to storm, and we decided to get some merch and head out. I of course had a great time, and now I will do a ranking of the rides I rode. Number 7, Curse the Werewolf. The lore is interesting, but I wish the werewolf was an actual animatronic prop and got to see it a little longer. Number 6. Hiccup's Wing Gliders. It's a nice coaster and I love the animatronics, but honestly, Burke was probably the one I was the least excited for. And the thing I was looking forward to the most was the Untrainable Dragon show. Number 5. Minecart Madness. It is a great start and I love the animatronics, but this will probably be my least favorite ride in the Super Nintendo world. Number 4. Yoshi's Adventure. It is a fun Omni-movie ride and I love the Yoshi character. You also get a nice view of Super Nintendo world. The only gripe I have is that it would suck if someone got stuck on the ride when it rains. Number 3. Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. I love this ride. The queue is very neat, and I love how they have the Flu Network system like they do in the movies. I also love the Easter eggs you will be able to find in the queue, like the different ministers of magic that the Ministry of Magic had. There's also portraits of characters like Mad-Eye Moody and Frank and Alice Longbottom. I also think this is better than similar rides like Spider-Man and Transformers because it has more animatronics and physical sets. Number 2. Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. Love the queue. Also, it was full of fun Easter eggs and nods to past Universal monster movies. I also loved getting to know the lore behind these versions of our favorite monsters. I also love the animatronics in this ride, and I loved hearing Danny Elfman's score in this ride too. And number 1, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. This might be controversial as I stated earlier, but this is my favorite ride at Epic Universe. I loved everything about the ride, from queue, the sets in the ride itself, and even the AR technology in the ride. The ride even made me and my dad both want to play Mario Kart. And that was my experience at Universal Epic Universe. Have you guys ever been to Epic Universe? Are you guys planning on going to Epic Universe? Let me know down in the comments, and let me know if this video inspired you guys to go. Anyways, that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, follow my TikTok and Instagram. The links to those will be in the description below. My name is Matt Green. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
If you're strong, you can fly. You can reach the other side of the rainbow. It's alright, take a chance, 'cause there is no circumstance that you can't handle. When you use your mind, sonic boom, sonic boom, sonic boom, keeps you running fast. Sonic boom, sonic boom, sonic boom, save the planet from disaster. You got drop to the light. It's a supersonic flight. Gotta keep it going. Sonic boom, sonic boom, sonic boom, keeps you running fast. Sonic boom, sonic boom, save the planet from disaster. Sonic boom, sonic boom, spinning through a world in motion. Sonic boom, sonic boom.
I see it.